Grüß, willkommen in einem meinen Aufregens video. Welcome to yet another exciting video, in this case episode 11 of my figure gaming video series. In this video, I'll be looking at how to create a single universal playing area which can be used for a wide range of figure scales, periods and rules. For those of you who've seen most of my videos, you may be asking yourself now, not another playing area video? Yes, I'm as surprised as you, as I thought I had finalised my playing area strategy and there was nothing else to talk about. However, I was wrong. Originally, I used 30cm square cork tiles, then I moved to a 2x3 foot MDF sheet system. I tried to create a universal playing area, and while this was partially successful, my early solutions were very simple and depended on flexible rivers, which are placed as required. I then moved to historical playing areas, which is what I mainly use today. I have about a dozen historical playing areas, mainly Napoleonic battlefields, but I also have a playing area which covers the entire Battle of the Bulge and the Würzburg SPI board game playing area. Typically, for each game that I have, irrespective of what the period is, I select a random playing area. I've used my Leipzig playing area for World War II and my Battle of the Bulge playing area for Napoleonics, and they seem to work reasonably well. My biggest issues were ancient games. Due to the scale, there are a lot less streams required, so I can't use these playing areas for rules such as DBM, DBMM, although they kind of work for P17CW rules as long as the game was not too large. At the same time I was doing this, one of my gaming comrades liked my terrain pieces but did not wish to make up a dozen different playing areas. They only wanted a single 3x4 foot playing area which allowed them the flexibility to have any type of conceivable game. These two events, or this, got me thinking. Many years ago with my cork tile system, I tried to create cork tiles which could be joined together in a variety of ways. This failed utterly for a number of reasons, and I never went back to the idea until kind of today. One reason why my universal cork tile idea never worked was complexity. Creating 12 tiles which could join together in a number of different ways ended up being too hard. On the other hand, in this case, I was only talking about 2 MDF sheets, which is my current system. If we assume they are double-sided, then we could have 4 surfaces, which could be joined together in up to 8 different ways. This was a much simpler problem than 12 double-sided cork tiles, which could, in theory, have 12 squared combinations. Apart from my historical playing areas, I have created a single universal playing area, which I use for my large 4x6 foot playing areas. I have one with streams and one without, but I rarely use these as the playing area size is awkward to transport. However, they do give me a single playing area, or 2 if I include the streamless version. I need to tweak this playing area to allow me to swap the 2x3 foot MDF sheets around to give me more options. Then I need to create something unique on the rear of these sheets which allow me to flip the MDF sheets over. This is my tweaked side A. This is made up of 2x3 foot MDF sheets. The only difference was to run the streams to the midpoint of the playing area, which will allow me to swap around sheet 1 and 2. The centre and exit roads are clearly placed on one sheet or the other. The blue boxes with the white X represents potential objectives, which would normally have a built-up area on them, or for ancients a marker or some other kind of marker of some description, temple perhaps. If we play along the short axis, a player's line of advance would normally follow a road, and as a result we can see there is a line of advance for both players if playing along the short axis of this playing area. Flank advances are also possible, but these require crossing streams. If we play along long axis, we also have roads to follow. This crosses 2 of the streams, although it's always possible to go the long way and avoid the streams if you want. If we swap the sheets around, we end up with this playing area. Play along the short axis would require each player to veer right in this case. Using this reverse topology, we can play along the long axis and we could follow basically the same road, but the stream layout has changed dramatically. Creating side B to these 2 MDF sheets was the most difficult aspect of this project, as it needed to be sufficiently different to side A while still remaining reasonably consistent and able to fit in with side A. The main driver here was a reduction in streams in order to allow players to use this for games of DBM or DBMM, basically ancient games. Using this layout, if we play along the short axis, there's a clear line of attack, no issue here. This playing area is also better for ancient games, as the number of streams is not as great as a typical Napoleonic World War II or Cold War game. If we play along the long axis, there is also a clear line of advance, although we do have streams to cross first. This also works well for ancient games, assuming the crossing or opposing forces start in their camp, and they both advance to the centre point, which is typical for games of P17CW, less so for DBM, etc. Let's reverse the sheets over. Now, when you look at this, the line of advance is certainly not as clear as you can see here. This may not be an ideal playing area as a result, but you have to admit it is different. I would possibly use a flexible road to join the road ends, the ends which seem to end in the centre of the playing area, up. So that way you get a better line of advance for playing edge to player edge, but you don't really need it if you don't want it. If we play along the long axis, there's no issue, although in this playing area, the centre of the playing area has significant stream obstacles, which still may be quite relevant for ancients. Let's swap sides, that is mixing side A with side B. So we've got A1 and B2. In this case, we end up with a more asymmetrical playing area. As you can see, we do have a clear line of advance from player edge to player edge on the short axis. If we play along the long axis, we also have no issues with line of advances, although in this playing area, one side would favour defence and the other offence. We can also do the opposite swap, in this case side A, sheet 2, with side B, sheet 1. There is no issue with the short axis line of advance here. If we play along the long axis, we also do not have an issue with the line of advance, but this configuration does favour defence on one side of the playing area. In all these examples, I would use a standard hardware supplied 60cm by 90cm in MDF sheet, or 2x3, of which you only need 2. These 2 sheets can provide you with a large number of usable playing areas. Players could decide to use a specific combination on a random basis, spinning 1d6 for one sheet and 1d6 for the other sheet. So sheet A can be on side 1 or side 2 and can be reversed as well, giving you 4 combinations. The second die roll would only provide you with 2 combinations, either side 1 or side 2 of the other sheet, as the position of sheet B is determined by the position of sheet A, which has already been set. If you need a larger playing area, then you could use larger single sheets. I plan on making a set using insulation sheets, which are 80cm by 120cm. This provides me with a total playing area size of 160cm by 120cm, or about 5 by 4 feet in size. If you wish to go even larger, then add another 2 sheets. I'm uncertain if I'll ever do this, as most of my games only require a 3 by 4 foot playing area. I also suspect once you add 2 more sheets, the complexity associated with making sure all the pieces fit would become too great. I'll leave that up to other players if they wish to pursue that particular path. Of course, a playing area with a road network and rivers and streams by itself is not all you need. You need built-up areas, hills, and more hills. I have no system which allows me to deploy these terrain features, but I've created some guidelines which seem to work. A good guideline for built-up areas is one built-up area should be placed whenever a road enters the playing area or when a road crosses another road. In addition, each time a road crosses a river or stream, a built-up area should be deployed on one side of the river. Whenever a road spans more than 1 foot without a built-up area, place a built-up area in the centre between existing built-up areas. This results in 15 built-up areas on this playing area. If the infrastructure level is high, placing a built-up area on a river where no built-up area exists in a 1 foot span is a good idea. This gives us 4 extra built-up areas. The next step is placing woods. I normally place lines of woods along the water features. The number depends on the scale of game you're playing, as this impacts the size of the terrain pieces. If the base width is 4 cm, then a wood would typically be 5 cm by 10 cm in size. Pick one side of a river and place one feature per 1 foot section of the river. If the area is heavily wooded, then place 2 pieces per 1 foot of the river. Finally, we place the hills. I place these between the rivers 1 per 1 foot square. This is a system I use, and I must admit I'm constantly fine-tuning this system, but in basic principle this gives me a usable Napoleonic, World War II and Cold War playing area. For Ancients, the story is different. This playing area is probably optimal for Ancients. In this case, I close off the flanks with woods and hills. Placing a few hills in the centre is an option as well. I typically do not have built-up areas for Ancients, although for P17CW rules I may place a few towns on the roads with a camp at each playing area edge. I have no idea how this would work, as my testing has been minimal, but the initial games seem to work well. Obviously, this system doesn't really work with DBMM, which has a fairly regimented terrain placement system. For those rules, everything has to be flexible, and it seems to work quite well. However, I have gravitated towards rules which are a higher scale, such as P17CW, which includes pre-manoeuvring, and this is the kind of terrain system I need for those sort of games. And so this concludes my part 11 of my figure gaming series, in this case providing an overview of how to create a possible universal playing area. Alle guten Dinge kommen zu einem Ende. This is a bit of an optional extra and just shows what a playing area could look like if you decide to go down the 180 centimetres wide path. Either 3 MDF sheets or alternatively 2 large MDF sheets. It doesn't really work so well in the swapping type of arena, but this is what I find is optimal if you want to create a single sheet without the ability to swap, which is 180 by 90 centimetres in size.